Okay. Okay. Can't quite tell who's all back yet, but I was reading through some of the places that we're all from across the world. And yeah, we have Sonoma, California, coastal Miwok ancestral lands, Odawa land, northern Michigan. We have Edinburgh, Scotland, France, Colorado, Ute Canyon, Portland, Seattle. I'm here in Western Massachusetts. Where exactly are you, Sarah? Hologram?
Oh, I'm in the Lake District of Germany, about an hour and a half north of Berlin, since 2.5 weeks.
Yes. Yes. You were in Germany before that too.
I
So
was, but very far away.
yeah. Yes, we have been across many time zones creating this cauldron for you all. So, so, so I think let's begin again. Let's begin now. So I just want to begin by introducing Sarah, also known as Hologram Heart, also known as Spider's Daughter. And Sarah is a storyteller, a soul storyteller. She is a improvisational nature-based singer, performance artist, soul initiation wilderness guide, ritualist, and you also happen to be a naturopath, I believe.
Yes.
You work with the Animas Valley Institute, Starter Culture, Feral Lunacy, along with Tempest, Death Doula for the Great Dying. I welcome you with my whole heart. So glad you're here. I met Hologram in a training together where you actually shared a stunning story, but which moved me deeply. But I had an opportunity to share a sacred story with you, a part of which I actually was the one I told earlier. And you caught that story in a way that I just hadn't quite experienced before, story being caught, the way that you were able to see me and validate the sacredness and holiness of that story. And then soon after, I joined Hologram's little community that she has on Patreon, where she tells stories. She tells stories monthly. And I've had the pleasure of hearing this story that we'll hear today told, but of course, not in the same way. Won't be the same story twice. And yeah, just still at a time of such unraveling in my life, just to heal and be held and come into relationship with my power through story is kind of like my relationship with you.
Mm.
And I'm really grateful for that. And so I shall, with that, hand the sort of the sacred, this is a sacred stone from my own vision questing time in the desert last March, for you to take upon and lead us inwards to it all. So, and if I've forgotten something, forgive me, and I will, I'm happy to make up for that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful introduction you've given us. Such an exquisite, heart-opening, um, deep detonating, truth-telling, uh, loving, coaxing, tender, fierce way of opening this weekend. So thank you for um, risking your significance in that way.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I thought it might be nice to just frame what you started to do, frame a little bit more about story and its power for healing and transformation. And the way I wanted to start was, and we'll just do this for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, not long, but the way I wanted to start was to share the kind of storytelling um, moves through me, because it's maybe different than other people have experienced before. And I found the word for how I do this in the Women Who Run with Wolves from Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She talks about el duende, the creative fire and passion that kind of inflames the heart and like a terrible tornado like moves through us in the creative aliveness. And she taught in that paragraph, she talks about being a trance teller
Mm.
and speaks about how some are called to, this is not her word, but be a hollow bone, or be open themselves to the stories telling themselves through one. And that's the kind of teller I am. So I have my drum, which I'll get in a moment, and my rattle, and I'm going to rattle us over a particular kind of threshold with my voice and, and my rattle into this land of once upon a time, into this portal, over the portal, through the portal, to the magical between the worlds where everything is possible. And I invite all of us to go on this journey while the Baba Yaga tells the story. I really don't know how it's going to come out. I mean, I kind of know, because we all kind of know the story, but I don't really know what's going to happen. And maybe that's a place I'll pass to you to just to touch in for a few moments about that kind of not knowing um,
Yeah.
and
Well,
trusting to the story that comes through.
yeah, I think the first thing I want to say is thank you for risking your significance. Um, yeah, um, I think we're trained to be very rehearsed in
Hmm.
our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we rehearse all kinds of things. Um, so afraid that what tumbles out might be too loud or too fierce, or
Mm-hmm.
might offend someone, or might offend ourselves. So um, it's a delicate dance. Um, for example, preparing for this today and this weekend, right, in a way that's cohesive, while at the same time letting ourselves be the hollow bone. I don't know where that term originates, but in my I'm a shamanic practitioner in my Celtic ancestral heritage, and that's what we speak of, right, in that work. But really, it's the truth for, I would say, I was going to say any artist, but I really think it's all of us. We all um, have to and get to become the hollow bone, where the life force, sort of the dream of the earth, as some people call it, just can be dreamed through us. The song that we are can just be sung. Um, and but right, we have to be rooted in at least safe enough, ready enough, as one of my mentors who says often, is it enough? Are you ready enough? Are you safe enough? So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there maybe, but yeah.
Way, way. Oh, there was just a little thread of a tail that went by that I thought, oh, but I think it might have gone on.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it'll come out later.
Yeah.
um, yeah, thank you for that. Um, I remember. It was one of the questions that the Baba Yaga asked through me this week in the series of videos I did. Is and it's not a new question either. It's a very ancient question. Whom or what do you serve? Right? If we talk about being a hollow bone, it's for whom
Yeah.
and for what,
Mm.
and in what ways do we prepare ourselves for that? And in what ways do we integrate that, and in what kinds of protection are needed, what kinds of stepping over protective strategies, or
Mhm.
through habits like we're speaking about this weekend, of
Mhm.
unworthiness.
Mhm.
It's really a world changing thing, isn't it? This consciousness shifting. I guess
Yeah.
that's what I'm about with these sorts of stories, is shifting consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that might be a good segue. I wanted to read the conversation that I had with the Baba Yaga this morning. Unless there's
Okay.
something else that feels like it
Well,
wants to move through.
I think that we're sort of weaving. I mean, the Baba Yaga has been called into this before even we began. She, they, them is very much present. Um, and also, I just wonder if you might speak a little
Mm,
bit about who this one is.
right.
This hag
Mm,
witch, and why we might call upon her in such a adventure of honoring
yeah.
our word.
Yeah. Way. Um, so the Baba Yaga is really a force of nature that we sometimes call a witch. But that's sort of like calling, the massive energy that is a tornado a tornado. It's just a word that we kind of put onto it so we can be in relationship with it. Um, the Baba Yaga is, she's got iron teeth, and she's this ancient, fierce uh, keeper of the cycles of time, of death and life, and death and life. And she's kind of this elemental metal, stone, fire, water breathing, kind of creature that is keeping the cycles of time. Really, actually, is probably one of her main embodiments and main roles. Um, in all of its understandings, the cycles of the day that you spoke of, where there's an autumn and a spring and a summer and a fall in the day. Um,
Mm.
she's the keeper of the moon cycle. She's the keeper of the yearly cycle. She's the keeper of the wild ones. She lives in the deepest, darkest wilds of the forest, where mostly no humans tread, um, unless they're coming to visit her or have gotten seriously lost on their journeys, um, and stumble upon her, death, life filled hut. Um, she's fierce and
Mhm.
wildly neutral.
Right.
She doesn't actually care,
Yeah.
about any of us in a certain way. She cares about life and death, and the cycles.
Mhm.
Um, and she's an ancient. I think of her being of Slavic descent myself. I think of her as like my most ancient ancestor, and I think that in every culture, this one is called by a different name. This
Right.
winter
Right.
hag,
Yeah.
ancient,
Mhm.
um, teeth gnashing, destroying,
Right. Right.
life serving, mortar and pestle medicine making,
Yeah.
stone being. She's the Kaliach in Gaelic. She's Caradwen. She's the Holle, the Frau Holle in German. This kind of underworld, wild world, winter hag.
If anyone is of a in their own heritage has this particular hag or this wild force of nature, death dealing, life giving, complicated, incongruent, teeth shattering, earth shattering goddess in your culture, feel free to drop
Mm.
their name in the chat as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I love
And
that
she
you.
really requires honesty. She
Right.
requires we're the most honest with ourselves, first of all,
Right.
as possible. And I think, in fact, that is one of the core worthiness practices. I don't call it that, but that's one of the core
Right.
practices I have. Is, am I being? And she invites me into. Am I being as honest with myself as I need to be right now? Am I lying to myself? Right.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to touch on that a bit tomorrow in my session, but I think, one thing that comes through a lot when I think of Baba Yaga is, she suffers no fool. And that includes the parts of ourselves that would trick us into thinking, you can't do this, forget, the massive distraction that a lot of those statements that I read earlier kind of swoop us into from what we really want to be up to in the world, in our lives. So
Right.
yeah, that's a very good introduction. Mhm.
Right. Thank you. Thank you also for inviting me to be here and to speak this holy story.
Yeah. Yeah. My extreme pleasure. Have all the guides here.
Yeah.
Topic, whatever you call it. I love that you actually said that you don't call it worth. Um, I was wanting to touch on that in the beginning by saying, with so many different faces and names for this work, it's kind of, but at its core, are mattering. Mhm. Which I think the Baba Yaga is always trying to get us to kind of wake up to, so.
She is definitely.
Yeah. So there's a question here.
Yeah, I just am seeing it, right?
Oh, the Gaelic. Okay, so the Kayach. Yeah.
Haliach.
I
I
think
have
I got
that.
this one, but tell me if I. Oh, you quick with
And
those.
Frau Holle
Yeah. Mhm.
is the German. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Mm.
Okay, so I just to give some context here, I want to start with this. The last mornings I've been getting up just at the time before dawn, right when the first light is happening, which is one of Baba Yaga's. She has 3 times of day, and that you'll hear about in the story. And that first time of day is her first light, that crack between the dark and the light in the morning. And I've been getting up at that time and lighting a candle and calling her name 3 times: Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga. And then I have asked her a question, and I've written what she had to say. And each day I've then recorded that and put it up onto YouTube. But this morning I didn't record it. And so I thought I'd read it to you. And then after I read this, I will rattle and sing us over the threshold into the land of once upon a time. And then I'll pick up my drum and begin the story. So I asked her, Baba Yaga, what do we need to know now? And she writes, my dear, you are wholly confused about the state of things. My dear, you are wholly confused about the state of things. Your understanding can never be complete. You would have to see with the consciousness of the entire earth in order to understand the complexity that is this life. And yet, you might know your own entangled way of relating within the world. You might know the smell of your lover or of a winter snowstorm or the forest. You might catch a glimpse of me. You might catch a glimpse of me. You might catch a glimpse of me or a wolf or some magical creature of what you call the unseen or fairy. Be content with this. And remember, it is never the whole story. Take your threads of the great storying that is this world, your ancestral, personal, communal threads of your human knowing and relating. Weave them back into the web of relationship with life. Weave your threads back into the web of relationship with life, with the other than human, with the holy in the wild. How do you do this? Sing. Speak to the others. perceive them as beings with dreams, families, lives, not human-like. Dreams and families and lives not human-like, but as valuable as your own, as rich and emotionally alive as your own, as exquisitely shaped by their ecosystem and ways of relationship as you in your own. Sing, write poems, speak, and listen. Decenter your human story and honor your story. These times call for complexity and change. Listen to the dreaming. Decenter your human story and honor your story. These times call for complexity and change. Listen to the dreaming. And so I invite us to listen to the dreaming that is the Baba Yaga. You might, while I'm rattling and singing, you might find your way into the position or body posture or place that feels the most receptive, the most delicious, the most nourishing for you right now. I'm gonna pour myself a bit to drink first. Okay. Listen to the dreaming of the Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga. I have a story for you. I have a story for you. You may choose to believe it or not. It may have happened or not. And if it did, it may have happened like this or not. But I have a story for you. Once there was a merchant, and he kept the cycles of the year, of the merchant's year. When the snows had melted and the ice had thawed, he went out with his cart and his horses and rode to the harbor. And there he bought the beautiful things that had come from all the many lands. Spices and colored glass and fabrics not seen in those lands before. Jewelry and knives, precious gems, and things for the household. And after he had loaded up his cart, he would make the long and winding way, over weeks, months even, back to his village. And along the way, he would sell the things that he had brought from port, and he would bring news along the way, from village to village, trading and buying and selling. This one had a good eye and a better business sense, and he always made a profit on the dollar. But he was an honest man, and he loved his work, and he loved to travel, and he loved the stories he would gather along the way. But even more, he loved returning home with a gift for his beautiful wife and their daughter. He made this journey several times a year, until in the autumn he would come home and spend the winter. And in the winter they were together, the three of them. But let me tell you, while he was away, his wife, she was a midwife. She would gather herbs and make salves and visit the women who were pregnant. And at all hours be at the birth and scry in the afterbirth and dream the dreaming dreams of the young ones birthed and heal their mothers. Heal their mothers' souls, their spirits, and their bodies. And the child went with her mother everywhere she went. She picked the herbs, she made the salves, she visited the women, she learned the massage. And she would fall asleep to the wailing, grief, longing, beauty cries of a mother birthing. The child's name was Vasselissa. And she loved in the summer to be along with her mother. And she loved to go into the larder and see all the many jars and pots of herbs and honeys and salves and oils, held in things her father had brought home. And so she would look at the work of her mother, held by the gifts of her father. And in the winter, she loved to be with her father, and she learned maths and checked the stores and spent hours in his cupboards looking at the beautiful colors and textures. And many cycles passed thus. And in Vassilissa's 8th year, a fever went about the village, and many grew ill. And when Vassilissa's father came home from his last journey, he found his wife, his beautiful, beloved wife who knew the healing arts, in bed, wasting away. And Vassilissa's mother, who knew she was dying, who knew she would not see the next spring, she began to sew a little doll of wood and clay and cloth and straw. And while she sewed and crafted with the energy she still had left, she spoke all of the wisdom and sang all of the holy songs and prayed to all of the ancestors and spoke the names of the plants and all of the knowing that she would never be able to teach Vasselissa, she put into this little doll. And then she dressed the doll like Vasselissa in red boots and a black skirt and a white shirt and a white apron and a little vest embroidered with flowers. And when her time came, just as the snows were melting, just before her husband had to go off on his journey again, she called Vasselissa to her and said, "Child, it is time. It is time. I give you this doll. It holds all of the magic and all of the power and all of the knowing and all of the stories and the songs and the wisdom I could not give you. I give to you now in this little doll. Daughter, I will not be here to guide your way. I will not be here when you arrive at thresholds in your life to give you counsel and advice. From my own experience, I will not be here to birth your children. And I will not be here to watch you grow. And so when you come to a time, daughter, when you come to a time in your life and you do not know which way to go, you do not know how to go on, you do not know what is asked of you, or you do not know how to answer the questions that are asked of you, take this little doll into your hands. Hold it against your heart. Let the ears of your heart listen. And I will whisper. I will whisper through this little doll all you need to know. You must only feed the doll You must only feed the doll a scrap of bread and a bit of milk. You must only feed the doll, and you will know all you need to know from her. And with that, they kissed, and all three wept. And the mother took one last breath and let it out. Her spirit flying out the open window to join the winged ones flying. The winged ones calling. For many years, Vasselissa and her father grieved. And after a few years, when Vasselissa was 12 or 13, at the end of the autumn, at the end of the travel time for the summer, when he returned after his last journey, he brought with him a woman and two girls. One older than Vasselissa and one younger. This is your new family, her father said to her. This is your new family. And Vasselissa, well, she couldn't do anything about it, could she? Whenever they were together, which is to say, whenever her new stepmother and stepsisters and she were with her father, they were on their best behavior, so polite, if a bit cool and removed. But when they were alone, they were ruthless. Telling Vasselissa what to do, ordering her around, making her do all of the housework. But Vasselissa had the doll from her mother. Vasselissa knew that she was loved. And the three of them could feel that love emanating from her, could feel that she knew herself loved even when she was treated like this. And they hated her for it, because they had never known that kind of love. And so they plotted. And so they plotted against her, thinking of ever more dangerous, or ever more cruel, or ever more difficult things that she must do. But miraculously, she survived them all and came home again and again and again. And so one day, one of the sisters, I think it was the younger one, said to her mother, "Why don't we send Vasselissa to the Baba Yaga?" Now, you have to know that the Baba Yaga in this time and in this place was known as a horrible, scary creature who ate children, lived deep in the forest, but would fly in a mortar with a pestle as an oar through the skies, bringing sickness and death and horror and nightmares to the people in the villages. And the parents would threaten their children. If you do not clean your room, if you do not do your chores, if you do not eat your vegetables, if you do not do as you're told, the Baba Yaga will come tonight. She will come tonight, and either she will give you a nightmare or she will eat you up. And so although Vasselissa was unliked, strongly unliked from her stepmother, it took her stepmother a moment to decide if she could actually send this child to Baba Yaga. But as they sat there in the evenings, her two daughters needle pointing and sewing their dowry, and Vasselissa, more beautiful than either of her her daughters. She looked at them and she thought, Vasselissa stands in the way of a good marriage for my daughters. No suitor will want to marry my daughters if Vasselissa is here. We must get rid of her. And so, the next evening, the stepmother put out the fires in the house. She doused the coals with water. And they sat together in the evening with only the last little stub of a candle for each one, until one after the other, they all went out. And out of the dark, her stepmother said to her, Vasselissa, you must go into the forest. You must go to the Baba Yaga and ask for fire. It is your fault that the fires went out. You are lazy and stupid. You are ugly and dirty. You must go to the Baba Yaga. My daughters are far too scared and far too precious and far too perfect to be able to go on such a journey. And so Vasselissa took her doll and a crust of bread and a little bit of milk and set out. And she walked through the forest. It was cold, late winter, early spring. It was cold and she walked. She walked because her father was on a journey and she had no protection, and she knew she had to go because she had to do what her stepmother said, and she was scared. She was scared of the Baba Yaga. And she went because she saw no choice. She saw no way out. And so she went with the doll in her pocket and a crust of bread and a little bit of milk, and she walked. And she walked. And every time she came to a crossroads or a stream or a path or a wood, she would hold the little doll to her heart and ask the way. And the little doll would speak in the way it spoke directly to her heart, and she would hear and know which way to go, and give a crust of bread to the doll and say thank you. She walked the entire night. And in the morning, when the night is at its bluest, its purplest, its deep velvetiest, a rider dressed in white on a white horse went thundering by her, and day broke. The first light growing stronger. She'd made it through the night. Thank you, she said to her doll, and fed her a bit of milk. Thank you. Thank you, mother. Thank you, forest creatures, for protecting me through the night. And a little bit later, a rider dressed in red on a red horse came galloping by, and the sun rose, and she felt the warmth of the sun on her face, and she felt the warmth of the sun on her hands and on her heart. Thank you, sun, she said. Thank you for your warmth. And still Vasselissa walked and walked all through the day. Until galloping by her was a rider dressed in black on a black horse. And as soon as this one passed her, see there, she was at the house of the Baba Yaga. Well, house, you can't really call it. Here, let me interject and talk about my own hut. My hut is so beautiful. It has a chicken leg upon which it rests so that it can dance. Wouldn't you love to have a dancing home? And the door can change direction according to the sun or the stars or those who have come to visit. I can always keep my eye on things, you see. Around my hut is a fence. From every stupid human that asked the wrong question or failed my tasks. Oh yes. Oh yes. Their thigh bones and their skulls make my fence. The rest of the bones I gnash with my iron teeth. About the time that Vasselissa comes, the skull eyes begin to glow blue. Ancestral fire, otherworld fire. Can you imagine how terrifying that must look? And so Vasselissa comes to my cobwebbed, moss-covered, green-roofed, breathing, seeing, dancing hut. And I am not yet there. I am not yet there. I am flying in my mortar with my pestle as an oar. And I have a broom, oh yes I do, made with the hair of long dead people that I use to wipe away my tracks through all the worlds, mind you. And so Vasselissa comes to my gate at dusk. She is there. I can see her from up above from my mortar, flying through the air, letting the horror and the fear touch her heart just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. Because, of course, I know why she is here. Just before she loses her nerve, I land down on my side of the fence. And I greet her. Hello, Vasselissa. Why have you come? And Vasselissa, there's something about her. I can't tell what it is in that moment. But there's something about her. And so I actually listen. I have come, she says. I have come to get fire. The fire's gone out in my home. I don't really know how it happened. I usually tend the fire, but somehow the fire went out. And my stepmother and my two stepsisters, well, they were too afraid and they didn't know the way. And well, they told me to come, and so I did. And so I've come to get fire. Do you come on your own volition, or do you come because someone sent you? I come because my stepmother sent me. But I also come on my own volition. Good. And why do you think I should give you this fire you ask for? Some strange look comes upon Vassilissa's eyes. And then she says, because I ask. Good! That is the right answer. And I open the gate. And we walk up the stairs of the hut, and she can see that the joints are made of human finger bones. And the lock on the door, a snarling wolf muzzle full of teeth. But everything becomes calm and gentle as I approach my beloveds. I love their monstrous beauty. In fact, I love their monstrous beauty and ugly power more than this most perfect little Vasselissa. And so I say to her, I will give you the fire, but you must complete tasks for me and work for me. Without doing that, you will receive no fire. If you refuse, you will die. If you say yes to the tasks, but you do not complete them, you will die. If you complete the tasks, but you do not do them to my liking, you will die. We went into the hut, and I told Vasselissa to get everything out of the oven and put it on the table for me to eat. Oh, how I love to eat. Haunches of wild boar and deer backs, roasts, mushrooms, a good borscht. Oh, how I love to eat when I come home from flying through the skies. And at the end of my feasting, I put a crust of bread and a little bit of broth aside for Vasselissa, and I say to her, you must cook for me, and you must clean the hut, which is bigger than it looks. And in the barn behind, which you haven't seen yet, there's a great pile of corn. But the corn, you see, part of it is mildewed with ergot, and part of it is fresh and clear, and you are to divide and sort the corn. Here, there, here, there. And the fresh corn should come in sacks into the hut when you are finished. And then I went off to bed. Vasselissa ate a bit, drank some of the broth, gave the rest to the little doll. What am I to do? What am I to do? I don't know what to do. Vasselissa wept, and her tears fell on the doll as she clutched it to her heart. She was so scared, and she had no idea how she could possibly complete these tasks. All will be well, my dear. She could feel her mother's hand on her brow. Sleep. Sleep now and dream. All will be well. And so Vasselissa laid on the couch and fell into a dream. She dreamed of birds and mice squirrels. And in the morning, when she woke at first light, the bags of cleared and clean sorted corn stood in the hut. The Baba Yaga was already gone, and so she began to clean the house and to cook prodigious amounts of food. That evening, as dusk came and night fell upon them, again I returned home. And it smelled good. It smelled really, really good. It smelled better than I can cook, which kind of annoyed me and kind of made me really happy. And I went in, and I saw the bags of corn standing in the corner, and I smelled the food, and I looked around the house, and I tested, and everything was clean. Bring me my food, I said to Vasselissa, snarling a little bit at her, showing her my iron teeth. Oh, it was delicious. Oh, it was delicious, but of course I didn't show her any of that. I still couldn't figure this girl out. There was something about her. At the end of my feasting, I left again a crust of bread and a little bit of broth for Vasselissa. And I said to her, You have done well today. It pains me to say it, but you have done well. And so tomorrow you will work again. Again you will clean the house. And again you will cook my food. And out in the yard, you will find, upon looking behind the hut, if you can find behind the hut, with a hut that dances and turns, a great pile. And in this pile there is soil and millions of poppy seeds. Millions of poppy seeds. And I need you to separate the dirt and the soil from the poppy seeds. Because, of course, I need you to do that. So you do that. And if you don't, you'll die. Again, Vasselissa stood there trembling. But she completely forgot exactly what the Baba Yaga had said to her. Because suddenly, the Baba Yaga clapped her hands 3 times, and 3 pairs of hands appeared out of thin air and began to grind the corn. The golden chaff flew like snow around the room, and she even forgot that it would be her job to clean it tomorrow. In the wonder and the beauty of the falling golden snow, and the awe and shock of seeing hands appearing from nowhere. When they had completed their task and the ground corn was back in the sacks, I went to bed. You know I have important work to do while dreaming. Who do you think weaves your dreamings? But anyway, that's for another time. Vasselissa again began to weep and sob, helpless and scared. The doll comforted her. Again, it was as if she could feel the hand of her mother stroking her brow. All will be well. All will be well. Go to sleep now and dream. And Vasselissa laid on the sofa, and she dreamed of insects and spiders and worms. And when she woke at first light, there were sacks of poppy seeds standing in the corner. And the house was clean of the golden chaff of the corn, so that all she had to do was cook. That evening, at dusk, I came home again. And again, it smelled so good. My mouth began to water. I could barely keep it in as I walked over the threshold into my hut. The whole hut seemed, I don't know, joyful or something. Maybe that was what it was about Vasselissa. I still couldn't quite put my finger on it. And she began to bring out stews and soups and roasts and food I'd never even seen before. And I've seen and eaten a lot of food, and it was delicious. But of course I didn't let her see that. And as I was licking the grease off of my fingers, after having eaten everything except for a scrap of bread and a bit of broth for Vasselissa, I clapped my hands 3 times. And there appeared my helpers out of thin air. And they began to mill the poppy seeds for oil. So beautiful watching it run from their fingers, filling flasks. Vasselissa stood there dumbstruck again, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, like she was trying to understand something or see something or say something, when it kind of annoyed me. So I asked her, "What is going on, Vasselissa? Do you want to say something? Do you have a question?" "Yes, grandmother," she said. "I do have a question." "Be careful," I said to her. "Too much knowledge makes one too wise, too young. And you don't know where that's going to get you." "Grandmother," she said, which was both annoying and pleasing to hear her call me that. "Grandmother, when I was walking through the forest, through the whole night, there was a rider in white on a white horse that went by me. Who was that?" That was my day." "And grandmother, after walking a little while longer, there was a rider in red on a red horse. Who was that?" My dawn, my rising sun." "And grandmother, after walking many hours, there was a rider in black on a black horse that thundered by me. And when he had passed, I landed at your door of your gate. Who was that?" My night. And I cracked my eyes a little, and I looked at her, just daring to ask another question. But she was silent. She got this weird look again in her eyes and said nothing. "And don't you want to ask something else, Vasselissa?" "No, grandmother. As you said, too much knowledge, too much wisdom too soon is not a good thing." "Now I have a question," I asked her. "What is it about you? How is it that you can complete all the tasks I give you and cook such delicious food and clean my hut? I mean, that's impossible to do all of these things. That's why I told you to do them, because it's impossible. But you did them. How did you do that? And again, that weird look came over her eyes, and she said, "It is the gift and blessing of my mother." Ah! Ah! Blessing! We don't need your mother here. Here, take the fire. And I gave her a thigh bone with a skull, breathing blue fire out of its eyes and mouth. Take this fire and go! But I did watch her leave. Because there's something about that Vasselissa. I watched her leave. And I also checked, because if she had turned around to say thank you, instead of just taking that fire and going, it would have been null and void, and I could have snatched it back from her and killed her. But she didn't. Vasselissa walked through the forest, again, her doll showing her the way. All the while carrying the thigh bone with the skull of fire. She could feel it murmuring. She could feel the ancestral voices, the stories, the song lines, the generations. Could feel them around her and with her while she held the fire and walked home. It scared her, the fire. A few times she wanted to throw it to the ground, and each time the doll told her, "Go a little bit farther, go a little bit farther, keep carrying it." And she walked. And she walked. She walked until first light. Until she returned to her house. And even there, just before she returned, she almost threw the skull away. Terrified of its blue-fired power and energy. But she held on, and she opened the door, and she went in, and she found her stepmother and her stepsisters a mess. Terrified and cold and crying. They hadn't had any fire since she left and didn't know how to help themselves. And so she brought the skull back and she lit the fires. And after she had done that, the eyes, the blue fire eyes, began to follow the stepmother and the stepsisters. And the fire began to bore into them. Bore into them until it had turned them into cinders. Now, some say that what happened next is that the entire house burned down, and she went to go live in a chicken shed with an old woman in the village. Others say that she stayed in her house until her father came home from his journey to find his wife and her 2 daughters dead. Vasselissa didn't speak about it, of course. But whatever happened, she began to weave. Vasselissa, she began to weave. She had somehow inherited or received a magical power of weaving beautiful cloth with a particular aliveness running through it in the faces of the wild ones and the plants that she wove into the fabric, into the pattern of the fabric. And it was the finest and most beautiful cloth that anyone had ever seen. And so Vasselissa's beautiful cloth traveled with her father. Or maybe the old woman took it, or maybe she brought it herself. We don't really know, but somehow this fabric made its way all the way to the king's castle, where the tailor cut it into a beautiful dress for the king's wife. And all were so impressed by the beauty of the fabric, that the king ordered that the one who made this fabric be found and brought to the castle. And so riders were sent, and word was sent, until they finally found Vasselissa weaving. And they brought her to the castle. And whether it was love at first sight, or whether it was who knows what, anyway, Vasselissa and the prince fell in love. And were married, as they tend to do in these sorts of stories. But what happens next? Oh, what happens next and then on? We don't have time for that today. Those are stories for another day. Letting the story be alive within you. I invite you to take a few moments and feel the shimmering threads and images and sensations and moments of the story that particularly touched you. Just stay in the fabric and the weave of the story, right there with yourself and with the story. Listening in for the places you were touched, where your own heart responded. Let that echo happen in you. Really give yourself to it as much as you can right now. Let yourself have the echo of the story, and let the story have the echo of your body. Staying with this, whatever feeling, sensation, image you're having right now, staying with that, I invite you to return to this portal that is the computer. Staying really within the weave, the fabric of the story. Go slow, take your time. And when you've arrived, I'd like to invite us to what I call, I learned from Martine Prechtel. I'd like to feed the story, feed the Baba Yaga. She has such a ravenous appetite. I'd like to feed the Baba Yaga and the story. And the way that we do this is we're going to do it with the chat today. Just write in a few words, the image that really touched you. So we're not looking for interpretation. We're not even looking for your personal story right now. We just want to let the story know, here's what touched me. I see you, I hear you, I received you. Here's story, here's the the thing that made me come alive or killed me or whatever it is, right? So just welcome you to write into the chat what image, what moment of the story really grabbed you or really moved you, confused you. You know, there's no right response. I'll read them out. So Amanda says, "You will die." Katrina says, "Mother's wisdom whispered and weaved and sung into the doll." Yeah, thank you. From Amy, the whispers of her mother's love, soothing her in moments of terror and despair. Layden, yeah, just keep walking. Dab says, "Love is stronger than death." Urbi, "She was loved." Way. Brad, "Too much wisdom and knowledge too soon is not good for us." Shannon, "Because I asked you." Mm-hmm. Robin says, "The dancing hut." From Caitlin, Baba Yaga's appetite and willingness to eat as much as she wished to. Way. Camlin, empowerment through transformation. Amanda says, "Feeding the doll." Caitlin, yeah, Vasselissa walking away without saying thank you. Yeah. Way. Jessie, nearly throwing away the blue fire, not of this world, but continuing on through her fear. Yeah, way. Amy, the disembodied hands working their magic. Yeah. Amanda says, "Blue fire eyes watching, staring down the stepmother and stepsisters." Tempest says, "The relentless absence of Baba Yaga's validation of Vasselissa." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amy, "There's something about you, Vasselissa." Mm-hmm. Amanda says, "This is so good, but I'm not going to let her know that." Yeah. I thought that was good too. Sometimes it's hard for me not to laugh in the middle of the telling when they get saucy like that. Yeah, just a few more moments. If anything else wants to be echoed back. Katrina, the sudden burning up of the stepmother and stepsisters. Yeah. Amanda says, "I have important things to do when I'm dreaming." Mm-hmm. Caitlin says, "Vasilissa's willingness to trust that she could sleep and dream and waking up to the tasks being accomplished." Mm-hmm. Mm. So thank you. Vasselissa's perfection. Shannon says, avoiding all traps. Yeah. Amy says, Vasilissa's trust in the doll. Yeah. So you're, Urbi says, Baba Yaga's annoyance and pleasure at being called grandmother. Yeah. Yeah, great. Jessie says, Vasilissa's beautiful weaving in the end. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So this beautiful, thank you for these echoes and these feedings of the story. And there might be still some that are coming, but I would like to invite now to pull it back into your own experience. And we'll just take, with the paper and pen that you have, we'll just take 5 minutes for you to write down anything that is personal for you that you've learned, understood, been changed, been shapeshifted, something that's begun or is in process through the hearing of the story. And just take some time for yourself, really. I'll keep the time and let you know when there's a 1 minute left. Just take some time to write for yourself what needs to be remembered, because once we step over the threshold again of once upon a time, it's so often the case that the things we think we're going to remember get swallowed up and eaten and forgotten. So write down the things that are too important to forget, that you want to take with you on the journey this weekend and into your life. So just another minute to finish up the notes for now. Okay, and now I'm going to ask you 3 questions, which are the questions that the Baba Yaga gave me this morning. She gave me questions every day, but I'm going to read you now the ones from this morning that you might write down for now. And I'm going to invite you with these 3 questions, and there's going to be in a follow-up email a larger invitation from me. But with these 3 questions that I'm going to ask you, I invite you to take them out into a wildish, out of doors place that you have close to you or that you love. And I'm going to invite you to let these questions guide you, like Vasilissa's doll, guide you to the place where the listening can happen. So you'll ask a question of the wild, you'll carry one of the questions and ask it of the wild world and see how you were led and guided and brought to the place where you might listen. And then after that first one, then you'll do the second one and then the third. And the way I want to invite you to go out is really, like I read at the beginning, to be in relationship, in conversation, reciprocal relationship and conversation with the wild ones. So it's not about using them as an oracle. You might ask them the same question about themselves, as well as asking to listen to what you might hear of your own heart and of the wild world. And you might bring something with you as an offering, as a thank you. And like Vasselissa arriving at the hut, you might start with an introduction of who you are. Unless the place already knows you, then you might just greet them as an old friend. Okay, so the first question is, why have you come here? Why have you come here? Oh, thanks, Amanda's putting them into the chat as well, yeah. But you just sent that to me. You need to send it to everybody, please. Thank you. Why have you come here? The second question, what is holding you back from your aliveness? What is holding you back from your aliveness? And the third question is, I thought this one was perfect, Baba Yaga. What fire are you already carrying? What fire are you already carrying? So when you go out, you would ask it in the first person, right? Why have I come here? What is holding me back from my aliveness? What fire am I already carrying? And of course, with these questions, you of course can also use them in any other way that you might know to be in relationship. You could dance them with music, you could journal them, you could meditate with them, whatever ways work for you to deepen into this kind of a process. Yeah. Additionally to going out. Oh, and one other thing I'd like to say about going out is when you go out into the wild world, I'd like to invite you all to risk speaking out loud, the wild others. and having a conversation with them like you would with a human. Right? Speak out loud. See what that does to your consciousness. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd love to invite for these last minutes here, I'd love to invite for anybody who feels called to share, to write in the chat or to speak. For me, it would be okay to unmute yourself, but I don't know if that's okay with, is that okay, Amanda?
Yeah, so I tried this out and I'm pretty sure that if you were to have some share and you unmuted yourself, your voice will be audible to those who listen to the replay, but nothing else will be. So yeah.
Okay, so you decide if you want anonymity. I also wouldn't say your name when I read it out this time. And
Yeah.
if you are welcome to have your voice be heard, go ahead and unmute. And we're just gonna do like, I don't know, 5 or 7 minutes, not long, but I'd love to just open up the space and I'd love to hear your voices. Um, but you do what's right for you. To speak anything that came up for you that's personal, that from the heart, from being moved by the story. If there's anything that you wrote down in those 5 minutes that feels being witnessed, would be powerful, deepening, transforming, shapeshifting. That it might be like speaking to the Baba Yaga, for you to speak and bring about the whatever the gift is by doing that. Then please do write or speak. What 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 are you sensing, feeling, noticing, imagining through the story of how it's touching your own, the web and weft, the weave and weft of your own story, your own heart? To answer the call even when I am less rehearsed and not perfect. Way. How do we do that?
Yeah, maybe we can say go ahead to KF.
Yes, go ahead, KF.
Thank you. Beautiful, illustrious KF, yes.
I had not heard that story in a long time, and this time I heard the echoes of a very dear friend who passed last year, in how she poured her love and wisdom into many different projects for her daughter, who was 1 year old at the time of her death. And just so much echoes of her love came through the story. So I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Here someone wrote, I am looking at the places where constant validation from myself to others or from others to me is a disservice. Way. Yeah. Feeling deeply moved by the ancestral whispers that continue to live on through me and guide me, and also the remembrance of worthiness within me as a relationship to be fed. Thank you. Leaving because you were told, in my case, expected to go to college. and also of my own volition, for me, a way to leave home. Way. Amazing how it can be both and, right? Yeah. Way. Trusting the impossible can be done is ringing for me right now. Way. The feeling of having trouble following the story, of struggling to focus and hear and be present and just being okay with it, seeing it, being. Way, yeah. Good thing there's a recording so you can dip back in if you like, and thank you for the bravery to speak that. Yeah. There was a familiarity about it, not like I've heard it before, but like I've lived it, and an awe and desire, like a drawing towards, around the description of the elemental breathing crone archetype. Way. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Maybe I'll just drop one thing in here
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't quite moved me as much as this particular telling of just the mother who knows she's dying. And I don't know, I felt it in me in terms of the parts of me that I've known were dying, ending, and just how she knows she has to go, and yet she's preparing this beautiful gift that will indeed help Vasselissa go on.
Mm-hmm.
And how, yeah, just honoring my former selves, and hearing that, like, oh yeah, like all those selves that I can no longer really be or can no longer live in the world, nevertheless continue to inform and help me find my way. And I just was really moved by that this time.
Mm-hmm. Way, thank you. A lot is moving for me around the visual of Baba Yaga feasting and leaving Vasselissa breadcrumbs. Yeah. I'm feeling into all the ways in which I give away the feast to everyone else and leave myself breadcrumbs. Way. Maybe one or two more. Oh, yeah, there's one. The dying mother whispering her wisdom into the doll for her daughter resonated with me. I inherited my mother's copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves after her arduous death 3 years ago. Bless. Each page is underlined and annotated with messages such as, "This is so important," and "Remind Jessie of this." It is the best gift of wisdom I have received. It's like a conversation with that wisdom when I open the book. Oh, thank you for that, Jessie. It's beautiful. I think we have maybe one more, and then we have to stop. You're very welcome. Thank you for the beautiful story. It's a co-creation. So yeah. Okay, my dears. So we're amazingly coming to a close. Gosh, it felt like we had forever, and now we're all on the other side. I'm gonna sing us over the threshold from Once Upon a Time. And then I'm gonna hand back over to the exquisite Amanda Love Story, who is guiding us with the ancestral unseen fire in her hand during these days.
Yes. Mhm. In some circles, I am known as Love Story. You can call me either. Thank you so much. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I share that gratitude, although anyone is welcome, like Jesse, to share it in the chat for that, for being the hollow bone. And I know we joked before about risking our significance, but of course, what we really meant, or maybe you can correct me, but is risking our sense of significance, because of course, our significance is undisputed, established. So yeah, thank you so much. I don't want to say too much, because I feel that though the portal is open, it will be good for us to go. And like hologram Sarah has said, to let these images work us and continue to be with us for the rest of our day. And I might recommend that everyone keep their journal close in the night tonight, and really, should you be gifted a dream that you manage to remember, that you might treat it with like a little bit of extra importance, maybe the next few nights, maybe the next week, maybe the rest of your life. I don't know, but certainly tonight, to and just to again bring this atmosphere that we have co-created here. Let it stay with you, let it touch your relationships, the rest of your day, the tasks that you do, without having to assimilate it all or figure anything out, right? So just letting it all kind of be with you and work you and have its way with you, And tomorrow, and we're going to do a little giveaway in a moment to end our day with a little bit of fun. We're going to do this little giveaway, but just to tune everyone in that tomorrow, or in the next session, if you're coming and going from this in the future, we will be opening the day with Tempest, and her offering her session on magmatic becomings. And I don't know if you want to, if there's any preparation or anything you would like to share with us, but I know that you'll be, getting us into our bodies. Anything that you would like to say on tomorrow? Maybe there's not, but.
Well, bring your curiosity and your playfulness for sure. And that will actually be going into the terrain, a magmatic kind of fiery terrain of what it means to be, in fact, shaped and initiated by the absence of validation, and the ways that that actually works us, shapes us, kind of undoes us and reconstitutes us. So that would probably be the only thing I'd offer up right now for all of you beasties. I hope no one's offended that I just called him a beastie. I mean that from my heart. Thank you. Love story.
Yes. Okay. Oh, you never shared it. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Side comment. Okay. Wonderful. Yes. I am so looking forward to that playful, lovingly dangerous, terrain that you are so skillful at guiding us into. And then I will be second up tomorrow with, diving in with my session called Facing the Hag. So again, also kind of diving deeper into some of the themes here, and we will be taking a journey tomorrow, a shamanic journey, a deep imagery journey, you might call it, to adventure after what it is we really want and what it is we really don't. So with all of that said, again, we meet at the same time tomorrow. We hope to see as many of you here live as we can. If you're watching the replays, I dare you to set a time when you're going to watch the next sessions right now. I dare you. And we have an amazing giveaway. So Sarah Hologram Heart has offered to a dream session with her. I think a 45-minute dream session with her to work a dream in the future sometime. And if you want to speak to that a little more, then a 40-minute dream session. And maybe while you're speaking to it, I just want to ask that anyone who's interested in receiving this, maybe just drop a me or an emoji or something, just so we can be sure that we give it away to someone who actually is interested in having a dream work session. And Hologram, if you want to just tell us like a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so much in the story happens about and through dreaming. And the invitation I'm going to be giving you all in the next days after the program is there's also dreaming involved. So if anybody would want one of those dreams that Baba Yaga gives to you, would want to deepen into not analyzing it or interpreting it, but dropping into the experience of it more fully, to the way that I do dream work, and some of us have been trained to do dream work, is that the one who sends the dreams is wanting us to have a particular experience. And so the way that we say yes to mystery, to the Baba Yaga more, is to deepen into the experience. And so through that 40-minute time, there'll be a telling and a deepening into the dream itself, and then invitations for next steps, what one can do to let it to work us further and shapeshift us further.
Yeah, so just real quick, if you want to just drop, if you're interested in this, now's the moment to drop your little, okay. I think I'm going to put the ball in Baba Yaga's court, aka yours, Hologram. Who is the one who shall be winning this,
It's hard for me to see all of the names. Hold on a second.
They should be above each,
I know. I just all at once kind of thing. I have to make my chat box bigger so that I can see all of the people. Okay.
Yeah. Which one does the...
Oh, goodness. Okay. Okay, I have the number 3. And so the third one from the top is 1, 2, 3. Shannon. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly.
Shannon, it is. Is that how we say your name, dear one? Yes. I don't hear her, but
Okay.
If it is Shannon, who has written great, yeah, we will we'll connect you two on email so you can work that out together and you can enjoy that with dear Hologram.
Great. And anybody else, here's my website, and you can get in touch in case you want to book a session anyway.
Yeah, and we will send all of the guides' coordinates for sure also. But there you go. So that's what we have for you today. We're, I know, all very, very honored that, to have everyone here, and we hope that you go forth into the night enchanted and holding yeah, some good space for yourself. So yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Much love. That's it. That's a wrap. Blessings. Yeah. Okay.